All right, well, we have a special treat this week, a Sound Off exclusive. Now, as many of you know, because I mentioned it just last week, October is my favorite month, not only because it's my birthday, but I love Halloween. You got ghouls, goblins, ghosts, all that good stuff. But in the spirit of the season, I've got something even better. Zombies. I have a guest on the line who knows a thing or two about zombies. He played one on TV on the very first ECW on Sci-Fi, and you might just show up at your kid's birthday party if you ask him real nice. He also wrestles as the arsonist, Tim Arson, and he's joining us right now. Tim, welcome to the Sound Off.
It's a pleasure to be on Solomonster. It's very, 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 very exciting to be here. And also as, of course, the zombie, the ECW Zombie, reigns, making the most of my 28 seconds of fame.
Come on. Years later, you are still as popular now as you were 4 years ago. Come on.
That's it, and I'll keep on riding that wave until it turns into a tsunami, which hopefully that means signing a WWE contract.
Well, let's hope so. You got a lot of support out there. Now, it's kind of funny that, we have a zombie talking to a Solomonster right now. There truly is a first time for everything.
Quite a meeting. This is like Frost Nixon.
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
This is Oprah, Tiger Woods. Did that happen?
I was going to say Oprah and David Letterman, more like it.
Right. There you go.
Since I got you on, I got to ask you this question. As a safety aid for the people who are listening right now, what is the best way to kill a zombie? Is it always aim for the head? Is that what it is?
Right through the brain, yeah.
Okay. Wasn't sure if there were any other secret ways to kill a zombie, but there you go.
Maybe if you spike his drink. Oh, but wait, zombies don't drink. That's actually one of my gimmicks that I'm going to be using. A guy's recommended it to me for a long time to use like the zombie survival kit at shows. That book. I don't know if you remember the book. There was a book called the Zombie Survival Kit.
No. Now, is it like a list of different things that you do to protect yourself from a zombie, or what is it about?
Yes, it's a handbook that describes, like you say, different things to protect yourself from a zombie, and should a zombie come out of nowhere, should you find out that a member of your family is a zombie, there's many different ways that you can combat a zombie, which I don't know if I want to be if I want to be sharing those types of secrets with people out there in the world. But then again, they are wrestling fans, so
you got to keep kayfabe in some way.
Yeah.
Now, when we were talking this morning, you mentioned something that I was not aware of. Yet both of us share in common. You originally wanted to be a broadcaster, and you would actually tape record yourself while playing games of Madden, which I think is something interesting that a lot of people probably don't know about.
No, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. Like we discussed this morning, I grew up listening to WFAN here in New York, which is a sports talk, 24-hour sports talk radio show, while other kids were listening probably to, the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. I was coming up listening to sports radio, and like you said, I would tape record myself, my pathetic existence. I would tape record myself calling my Sega Genesis video Madden. At the time, it was Madden 92 when Madden first came out, and I would be calling those games. I did Lakers versus Celtics, triple play baseball. You name it, I probably have called the game. And then I had a friend. And in terms of wrestling, it goes way back to when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, and they had I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure I'm older than you because I'm an old fart. They had the wrestling dolls, and I had the wrestling dolls, and my friend had wrestling dolls, and we had the whole collection of the WWF wrestling dolls back in the day, the Land of 1,000 Dances. Have you ever seen that video?
Oh, of course, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I think the dolls that you're referring to are probably the old LJN figures that they used to have.
LJN figures. Somebody's been doing that. How old are you, Jason? It's a place to ask a woman her age, but how old are you?
Let's just put it this way. I was old enough to have, I had the LJNs, the Hasbros, and the wrestling buddies that they used to have.
Okay, that was later. But yeah, so we would put together shows. We would write on a yellow legal pad shows and cards, and we would broadcast the cards, and he would have one match and I would have one match, and we would be sitting there with our Royal Rumble WWF ring, which was also by LJN, and we would each take turns performing matches with the wrestling dolls. And if there's anything more of an indication of, and nothing against homosexuals, but if there's anything more of an indication of something gayer at that age, tell me what it is. I don't know, but that was my fun, and that's what I loved to do growing up. And yes, I did call it. I think I was the brain, and my buddy was Gorilla Monsoon. So.
I don't know if you would agree, but to this day, in my opinion, Monsoon and Heenan still the best announced tandem in wrestling history.
Oh, by far. Ventura and McMahon did pretty good too, but still, I mean, I don't know about you, but I put on those primetime wrestling shows every now and then to go to sleep. And not that it puts me to sleep, but it brings me back to that time. And when you go to sleep, you want to be in a comfort zone, and it just made me feel so comfortable just to watch Monsoon and Heenan going back and forth on that show. You know the show I'm talking about, right? Primetime Wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. Originally, it was a studio show, and then eventually it became more of a roundtable show.
Right. Well, I enjoyed the studio show when it was just Monsoon and Bobby and the Brain in the studio, and there would be like a wrestling doll set up. Whatever WWF LJN was pushing at that time, they would do it, and they would jaw jack. They would go back and forth with each other, and then they would show jobber matches for the most part until we got maybe the Killer Bees versus the Hart Foundation joined in progress from Maple Leaf Gardens as the main event, and that was great because Hart Foundation was my favorite tag team growing up too. So I really enjoyed those times.
Yeah, it's days gone by, and it's kind of funny you bring that up because I don't know if you subscribe to the service, but they actually have episodes of Primetime now on their on-demand channel that they show each month.
I've gotten pretty savvy with the computer, and I'm not going to say too much more than that. I've gotten pretty savvy with the computer, and I have an HDMI cable, and I work things out to my advantage so that I can take advantage of the content offered by WWE.
Enough said. Now, we were talking about the broadcasting and all that. Obviously, your career path took a very different turn. Now, you and I both share a mutual friend who happens to work for the World of Unpredictable Wrestling. It's in New York here, run by WWE Hall of Famer Johnny Rodz. And you were, in fact, trained by Johnny, and you made your debut back in, I believe, 2001. Now, obviously, even just listening to you right now, people can tell you obviously grew up a wrestling fan. Was there any, I know you mentioned the Hart Foundation was your favorite tag team, but was there any particular singles wrestler or personality that was a big influence on your career coming up? And also tell us a little bit about how your training came about with Johnny.
All right. My influences that make the character known as Tim Arson were one Don Morocco, Magnificent One, one Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. I also, if you're talking about the zombie character, that is a combination of George the Animal Steel and the missing link, Dewey Robertson. But in terms of just as Tim Arson, again, the Magnificent Don Morocco, Paul Orndorff, and I'd say Terry Funk at that time as well. They were definitely my favorites coming up. Obviously, growing up here in New York, all we had was WWF and PWI magazine to see what was going on down south before they started showing. I think when cable came in, I was about 9 years. I was about 12 years old when cable came to New York, and I was able to see TBS and finally see the NWA. So I really didn't. I didn't take to that as much as WWF. WWF was always number one to me, as was for many people. But yeah, I would say Orndorff, Morocco, and Terry Funk, just to name a few.
All very big influences, I think, on a lot of people, those guys were. Now, I just wanted to ask you something here. I don't know if this is true or not. I have read that you had done a Canadian sympathizer gimmick early on in your career. Now, is there any truth to that?
Yes, there is, and that was the other wrestling influence that I was going to mention. A man by the name of Len Milano, who was prior to 2001 and 2000, I worked at the ESPN Sports Ticker, which is over in Jersey City. Long story short, it was a part-time job. Awesome. One of my favorite jobs of all time because it was ESPN Sports Ticker, and I would take calls from the reporters at the games, and then type in the system what the score, the quarter, and the time left, and that was left. And there was a huge wrestling fan that was my boss there. I still talk to him to this day, and he was really old school. I mean, he went back even before me, like back in he's got me by 15 years. So he helped me with the Canadian sympathizer gimmick, and he used to actually put my promos together for me and help me, like you said, develop that type of character of the guy that trains tirelessly and left New York to go up there to get the type of training that he needed to run through the forest bare-chested and wrestle a Canadian Wolverine to the ground and snap its neck, to do pull-ups, wide pull-ups on a Canadian maple tree over a frosty river, to go swimming in a Canadian stream and catch trout barehanded to improve hand-eye coordination. These are the things that made the arsonist Tim Arson, the Canadian advisor.
Now, you began touring Puerto Rico a couple of years after you made your debut. You actually have had quite a bit of success down there. I know you won the world title for the NWS promotion. You've won the tag team titles in Carlos Colon's World Wrestling Council. How did you enjoy your experience working in Puerto Rico, and how would you compare it to wrestling in the Northeast?
There's no comparison. Working in Puerto Rico was my education for professional wrestling. Getting trained by Johnny Rodz at Gleason's that was to teach the fundamentals of the game. How to do roles, how to do your basics. The psychology end of the business and how to cut promos were all obtained in Puerto Rico. And the main thing, any advice that I could give to any guys out there, any young guys out there, is to take what you can from the place that you're at and move on, because the clock's always running and time runs out so fast in this business nowadays. The business is changing overnight. Things aren't like they used to be, obviously. But if there's any advice that I can give, if anybody wants to follow in the way that I did things, or similar, or likes me, then I would say to take what you can from the particular place. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I stayed at Gleason's for too long. I stayed there for over 10 years, and I think Johnny was kind of trying to tell me that, but in other words, and that's why I don't know that, not that, like, we still like each other, but he was telling me that I was ready without telling me that I was ready to move on, which means that, like the way that Matt Stryker did it was perfect. Matt came in, he learned the basic fundamentals of Gleason's. Matt isn't the greatest wrestler in the world. Matt sucks in the ring, and Matt will tell you that. There's no problem with that. But Matt and I once said to each other that we will work together in WWE one day. And Matt left. Matt left after about 2 years at Gleason's, and he started doing shows. He got his name out there, and he started learning how to work. And, maybe if I had done it like that, maybe I would have been given the props to Puerto Rico like I do give, because I really did learn everything that I know about wrestling in Puerto Rico. because Johnny is just so limited, and I couldn't learn half this. I couldn't get to that next level if I would have just stayed at Gleason's. And in Puerto Rico, you're working 3 days a week. You're cutting promos every Tuesday at the office. You're cutting 3 promos for that weekend shows, and you're learning by doing how to succeed in the business. And it's the wear and tear on the body because it's the same as a WWE schedule. I mean, it started out 4 days a week, but then business started to slow down there. So then it went to 3 days a week. But you're basically doing everything that you would be doing in WWE. You're cutting promos on one day, which is what they used to do back in the day when they worked in Poughkeepsie and Allentown. And then you have the weekend where you're going to be performing. And in performing, there's psychology in the matches. I had the great fortune to be surrounded at every step of the game by great people. I just levitated toward great people that knew their shit, knew what they were talking about. When I started at Gleason's, Johnny was there. And a lot of people laugh at Johnny. A lot of people laugh at Johnny because he stays in the office. He doesn't come out and get in the ring with people. Those people miss the boat and have no clue what this business is all about. They have no clue that you don't need Johnny to get in the ring and show you what to do. Johnny's words were enough to teach me, and I'm very hard-headed. It took me a long time to realize it, but to get out there and to learn on my own. My tag team partner in WWC in Puerto Rico was Rico Suave. He was there for 25 years. Rico Suave is the son of Jose Estrada, who was the partner of Johnny Rodz when they were the Super Medicos for years, for over 20, I think 15 years they were together as tag team partners. And they still, to this day, still calls him my compi, which in Spanish means partner. And I got to be Rico Suave's partner, and they put us together. And Jose Estrada, Johnny's partner, was our manager. So Rico taught me how the art of tag team wrestling, and basically the art of singles wrestling too, because I watched him do singles matches, and then he critiqued my singles matches, and there's no better way of getting an education in wrestling than in Puerto Rico, and that's why it burns my balls that their business is down right now, and that they were calling Puerto Rico the last great territory, and I think that I may have been one of the last gringos who had the opportunity to go down there and get the type of education that you need to make it to the next level. And for that, I am completely thankful for. And a lot of people don't understand that here in the Northeast, especially with the way the business is today, because it just, as you can see on TV, these Nexus guys, they're working on top. And these guys, I know I have much more training than they do, but they were in the right place at the right time, and that's just the direction that the company is choosing to go nowadays. I'm sorry for going on for so long.
No, that's quite all right. As a matter of fact, I don't want to belabor the point because I know we have limited time here, but I'm happy you brought that point up about working in Puerto Rico, because I made a comment on, I think it was on the last show that I did, talking about WWE and such, and it seems as though, and I'm curious to see if you agree with this, it seems as though people who come to WWE, I think more so than TNA, who have worked in different places, whether it's Puerto Rico, Mexico, Japan, Europe, you would think it's a good thing to learn different styles, and it almost seems as though it's frowned upon because they want you to conform to a certain style, whereas I think, and I'm curious to get your feedback on this, I think it's a good thing to be trained in a lot of different styles because it makes you stand out more.
Absolutely, and it is a good thing, and it always has been a good thing, and I wouldn't be in the game, I wouldn't get into wrestling if I was going someplace to conform, to be a robot, to not even have my own brain in thinking of promos. I mean, this is the place where I learned how to cut promos. I know how to get people excited to want to come out and either cheer for me or to even want to come out and hate me and boo the shit out of me and throw things at me and throw piss at me. and throw batteries at me and miss my head by a quarter inch with hitting me with a thick, solid 6-inch pipe. I swear to God. It was a baseball stadium one night, and I was walking back to the locker room. It was a Friday night. I was thinking about the stop at the gas station that the boys are making, and we're grabbing 30 beers for the 2-hour ride back up the coast. I mean, Puerto Rico was the best, man. It was the best, and that's where you learned how to cut promos and how to work, and it's just so disheartening to me. Even though I'm still a fan of WWE and we still do watch and try to see the good in it and to see the direction that they're going in, but Vince always killed what he didn't create. I mean, we know that's for sure. But now it seems like guys that have been on top for a long time are being phased out. Like you're seeing that with Jericho. I'm starting to see it with Edge. I'm seeing it with Christian. And these guys all have their chin up. They want to put over the younger talent. But I think even in their mind, I think everybody's so mind-fucked by what's going on right now, because they've worked so hard to get to where they are that they feel like, yes, I'm now. I think a lot of guys that are in that stage of the game, in their late 30s, like an Edge or a Christian or a Chris Jericho, guys like that now, where it would feel good to pass the torch. Like the last person that we saw do that was Shawn to Ric Flair. Was Ric Flair to Shawn at the retirement match at Mania. And there just isn't that. It just isn't that anymore. It just isn't that anymore. Guys are not passing the torch. Guys are just giving up. It looks like, and it looks like the guys, because the company doesn't know what direction they're going in, and it looks like they're going with youth. But it's just that they just have every promo written out word for word down to the letter, and I don't know. I'm just very disheartened with what's going on right now, and guys are just not happy about it, and you can tell in the way that they deliver their lines, like Big Show and these guys that have been around for over 10 years. It's just hard. It's hard to get into it.
Now, I was going to get your thoughts on the current product later on, but since we're on the subject, I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, now, obviously you follow WWE closely. You're still a big wrestling fan. And I know you've got some strong opinions
TNA and AAA. I follow all of them. Okay.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I mean, it seems to me that there's an endless pool these days of third-generation talent, and even in some cases fourth-generation talent that are being flooded on TV. You've got this new Diva season of NXT, which in my opinion is an absolute joke. Do you think these things actually help or hurt the business?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think it's one of the best NXTs that there is so far. Because it's got the Jersey Shore factor in there. Like where they're not really doing anything, but you can't change the channel.
Right. Well, hey, as far as an absolute train wreck, it's the best thing going on too. Well, I guess it's going on online right now. It's not on TV anymore. But I guess what I mean by that is when
took it off TV, they did.
Well, yeah, it's off Sci-Fi now. Starting this week. Yeah, it's on WWE.com as of this week. They did not get a new TV deal.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, that sucks.
But I guess the point that I was trying to make, was when NXT was initially conceived, I guess the idea was they wanted to get young talent over, and I think they've done a good job of that with the first season NXT guys to some degree. But when you've got these women out there, and you have Michael Cole on commentary, basically making a mockery, entertaining as he may be, he's making a mockery of the show. In my opinion, I think you're going against what the original idea of the entire show was. You're putting down talent that you're supposed to be getting over.
I couldn't agree more. Michael Cole, He's obviously transforming into a new heel type of character. I've laughed at a couple of things that he's done, but you're absolutely right. He puts down talent completely. And if you're gonna, I just don't. My wife and I are huge wrestling fans. She's been a huge wrestling fan since she was, young in Puerto Rico. I met her in Puerto Rico while I was there, and we both find ourselves scratching our heads a lot of times on why they do the things that they do. She hates the new, and she's a big women's wrestling fan, and she hates the new NXT just like you do. Maybe I'm just, like I said, I'm just retarded, and I can't turn it off.
I want to backtrack just a little bit here because I know people are going to want to know about the zombie and the origins of the zombie. So I figured let's backtrack a little bit here. Now, it was the first episode of ECW on Sci-Fi. So this was June 13, 2006, and I bring up the date because a lot of people probably don't remember that you actually competed the night before as yourself in a match that was taped for Sunday Night Heat against Matt Stryker, who you mentioned earlier. Matt was also trained by Johnny Rodz. Do you and Matt still keep in touch? Are you two still friends at all?
That's funny. It's funny you should say that. Yeah. I mean, I still text him from time to time. I haven't really spoken to him since I was there in 2006, over 5 years ago now, pretty much 4 years ago.
What are your thoughts on his commentary skills?
Well, I think he's great. I think he's hilarious. I think he's really funny at times, but I think sometimes he goes overboard and they get mad at him. But the main thing is that Vince loves him. So,
sure.
And anybody can get mad at him, but as long as Vince loves him, he's untouchable. But no, I love Matt, and I wish nothing but the best for him, and I'm so happy for him to be where he is, because we did say, like I said, he said in that ring, it was a Saturday morning. He started like 2 weeks before I did, and we said one Saturday morning we were both the most athletic in Gleason's at that time, and we thought that it was about athletics, believe it or not. And he said that one day we're going to make it together, and we're going to be in the WWE ring together. And sure as shit, the day before I did the Zombie on June 12th, we were in the ring and we worked together. And I'll never forget, his advice was, you can have a job in this company. You can have a job in this company. You just got to polish up on this, and that. And I'm still not employed by the company. but I still have hopes of getting there someday.
So you had your match with Stryker. Now the next night, of course, it's the big ECW debut, and the company was coming off a pay-per-view, the One Night Stand show. There's a great deal of momentum and excitement.
It is.
Well, I was going to say that there was also some degree of trepidation because, as the story goes, Sci-Fi Network wanted WWE to incorporate some science fiction elements into the program. Now, I've heard you kind of tell the story before, but I want you to tell it again for those who haven't heard it because it's a great one. Explain how it came to pass that you ended up working the show that night against Sandman as the Zombie and the role that Paul Heyman played in making that happen.
Okay. Well, it was really the role that Tommy Dreamer played in making that happen. Tommy Dreamer was the road agent at that time. He was the main guy. And so he called me in to come to the tryout on that Monday where I wrestled Stryker. Called me for the date with Stryker, like I said. And he knew me that I was from Johnny's. Tommy also started at Johnny's way back when, along with Taz and Devon. So it felt like I was a part of a little bit of a family there, and there was a little bit of a brotherly lookout. And in any case, that wasn't the case. But so on the Tuesday, I show up at SmackDown, and as is customary, there's catering. There's catering at 12 o'clock, and we eat catering, and then the guys get to go down and work out in the ring, the guys that showed up for the tryouts. So there's about like 15, 20 other guys that showed up that day. A lot of guys, I think, when they're on the East Coast, they just show up and they weren't invited, but nonetheless, they still get to work out. And so everybody worked out pretty much for the whole day up until like 5:30, around 6 o'clock. Now, don't forget that they're taping the first episode of ECW on a SmackDown taping, so that would be first at 7 o'clock, and then they would have SmackDown taping starting at 8 o'clock. So the SmackDown taping started at 8 o'clock. So everybody else got dressed, went back to get dressed, and then just pretty much got ready to go out and watch the show. And then they hung around backstage. I was still in my workout gear, and I was looking around, and I knew the thing with ECW was starting, and I wanted to do something. I was slated to go back to Puerto Rico the next day, and I didn't want to just get changed. I wanted to be a part of this. It was the first episode of ECW on Sci-Fi, and so many of my heroes, Shane Douglas, just incredible. I mean, a lot of people might laugh at those guys now, but tell you at a time, man, they were my idols. My ECW was my rejuvenation in wrestling. When my brother introduced me to ECW when it was on public access here in New York back in, I guess, 97, 98, something like that. But in any case, so I wanted to be on there. I wanted to be with these guys. And I had no idea how it was going to end up, and obviously we saw what happened with ECW. But the fact is, I knew Paul Heyman was there, Tommy was there, Devon was Devon there at the time?
Yes, I believe he was.
Devon was there. Vito was there. Vito, another Johnny alum. Skullbone Crush. At the time, he was doing the Vito dress gimmick at SmackDown, which may have been a punishment. So, long story short, I'm in my workout. Oh, it's already a long story. I'm in my workout gear, and I go to Vito. I go, "Hey, bro," and he's always been like a big brother to me, whether I like it or not. He helped me out in Puerto Rico, and he helped me out all along the way. He helped me out at Gleason's. He would come and work out there, tell me what I was doing wrong. Most of the time, abused me. But anyway, I said, "Bro, what should I do? I don't know what to do. These other guys got changed. Looks like it was 6:30 at that time. They were 45 minutes from showtime. 7:15 they were starting. What should I do? Should I go get changed? Should I be like these other guys?" He's like, "No, you keep your mouth fucking shut. You see this crate right here? You sit right there." And this is right in the back, about 100 feet behind the curtain, but in the main walkway where everybody's walking back and forth from catering to the offices to everything. So you're fully noticeable. They had a Martian that they were going to use, and apparently he disappeared. So Tommy Dreamer and Paul Heyman were about 50 feet from me, and I heard Paul going, "Oh, where's the Martian? Where's the Martian?" And Tommy's like, "I don't know. And then Paul was like, "I don't know about a Martian." He's like, "I don't know." He's like, it's ECW. I don't know about a Martian. We need a zombie. Who the fuck can we get to play a zombie, though? And Tommy Dreamer, out of the corner of his eye, he saw me. And I guess I saved the day for him because he was like, Tim Arson? And I don't think that he didn't have any intention of using me at all. But I was there. I took Vito's advice. I sat there in my workout gear, and he said, "Tim Arson?" And I was like, yes. And I ran over, and Paul Heyman was like, "Show me your best zombie, kid." And I went, "Ugh." He's like, "What the fuck is that?" He's like, "Zombies like brains." He's like, "Scream out brains." And so then I did the brains. And he's like, "All right." He's like, "You got it." He's like, "You got it." And then he goes to Tommy. He goes, "Is this guy good?" And Tommy goes, "He was trained by Johnny." He's like, get in the chair for makeup." And as God is my witness, they took my jeans that I wore to the show because they didn't have any jeans there, and they needed jeans. And they ripped my jeans up. They cut them up. They went outside. They got real cups of dirt from outside of the Sovereign Center, Sovereign Bank Arena, at the time in Trenton, New Jersey. They came in. They had a lumberjack shirt for me. They filled up the pockets with this real live dirt, and they sent somebody out to Gap to buy me another pair of jeans. And then Fit Finley came. He was the road agent for the match. I was working Sandman, who me and Hack are really good friends because of Puerto Rico again. Because the previous summer it was right before he got signed. He was down in Puerto Rico and he was working for Carlos for 2 weeks, and he was in the best shape of his life. And anyway, we hit it off because we were both Northeast boys, and we hung out. I've never drinking so much in my life. My God, that's for another show. He kept me out till 9:30 in the morning one day. Yeah, that's right, 9:30 in the morning. We started at 5 at night the night before, out till 9:30 in the morning the next day. So anyway, Sandman comes over. He's like, "All right, kid, I'm just going to come in. We're just going to do this, and that." And that was fine. Then Fit Finley came over. He got me. He's like, "All right, now it's time for final approval." And so I had to follow him, and he took me to Vince. And Vince was on the phone with two beautiful women in a little side office. And he goes, "Vince, this is the Zombie." He goes, "Go ahead, kid, show him the Zombie." And I went, "Brains!" And he goes, "That's fucking brilliant."
Awesome.
And then he went right back to his phone call, and he was like, "Oh, great." So if he thought it was brilliant or not, I don't know. But anyway, Paul London and Spanky Pop were huge, and a couple of other guys did too. And then, I mean, it was showtime, and I went out and did my thing. And ever since, I mean, it's just been an unbelievable wave of popularity and people that have wanted to book me.
Well,
as a Zombie.
It sounds like it was truly right place, right time for you.
It was right place, right time. And I also, at times on shows, I'll say, you know, as my lead-in for the ring announcer, the last great creation of Paul Heyman. Because really it was the last great creation, because he wasn't around for too much longer after that.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, nothing against Kevin Thorne, but, you know, he's had more chances than a little bit.
I think you can say that about a lot of guys that don't necessarily deserve.
Exactly. But honestly, like, some guys are really bitter. Like, who was it? I forgot who I heard. But you hear guys all the time that are bitter about it. But you know, how can I be bitter about it? I got to do what I wanted to do as a little kid. I got to wrestle in a WWE ring, and even if I don't ever get signed, I still got to wrestle in the WWE ring. I got to live my dream. I went to Puerto Rico, and I wrestled professionally in Puerto Rico. And let me tell you something. I was a celebrity down there. I was a top dog down there because I was on the main channel, and I was a tag team champion, and I was a world champion at the same time. I'm the first wrestler in Puerto Rico wrestling history that held not only a major tag team title for one promotion, but a heavyweight title for another promotion at the same time.
Not too many people can claim that.
Never in the history of Puerto Rico wrestling nobody can claim it. Nobody can claim it. Nobody has ever held two major titles in two different major promotions at the same time in Puerto Rico, ever in the history of Puerto Rico wrestling. And like I said, I was a celebrity down there. I've met my wife down there, and, you know, I mean, it's not the happily ever after. I'm still working. I'm still busting my ass, but hopefully there's a part 2 to the story, and, you know, and we'll just keep on moving on from there.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and doing this. I wish we had more time. I had more questions, but it's counting me down.
I'm so sorry. I know I rambled on a lot.
Believe me, it's quite all right. I just wanted to give you a chance here with the 60 seconds we got left. If there's anything you wanted to plug, I know you got your Facebook. You're taking Zombie bookings, so let her rip. Tell people what they need to know. Okay.
It is ECW Zombie 06 @gmail.com. That's for booking the Zombie. Also, Tim Arson 2004 @yahoo.com. Facebook.com /official Tim Arson. And on Twitter, it's @Tim Arson. And Trying to think of anything else. This Saturday, October 9th, we'll be in the ECW Zombie. We'll be in Center Reach, Long Island for Victory Pro Wrestling. And on October 23rd, I'll be up in Denver, Pennsylvania for ACW for my friend Tate, Twisted Tate. And that's going to be exciting too. I haven't been up there in about 3 years.
Awesome.
And one last thing. Thursday, October 14th, I'm going to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Believe it or not. Yeah. I got my
Sorry
ticket.
we didn't have more time to talk about that. That sounds interesting.
Well, you know what? Leave a little bit for the next time. You don't want to give it all away in one shot.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this, and hopefully we'll be able to get you back on down the road to talk more wrestling. Finally, we did it, Jason. I know. It only took 2 months to get the sound done. But you know what? It worked out better because it's October. It's the month of the zombie. It worked out better that way.
Month of the zombie. Brains.
By the way, I just have to mention this here. I did notice on your Facebook page you have Zombieland listed as your favorite movie, which I popped for huge when I saw that. So. Zombies. That movie was one of many great zombie movies, but I really enjoyed that one. That was one of the better ones. Is that my favorite movie? I think it's the only one listed. Movie is. Oh, it is? Okay. My favorite is the 28 Days Later series. I'm a fan of Zombie. I chase the ref around. I chase everybody around. Tim, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. No problem, Jason. Anytime, brother. God bless America. Happy Halloween. Brains!